This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words.
Tolerated.
I know words.
Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Shocker. Here we go. Sorry about that. Everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. So we got a good show for you all today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a special. Are we still having no audio? Oh, here we go. All right, so we're good. I am trying some new technology. So, if we have some issues, issues are issues. So we do have some of those. But don't worry. Everything's going to work out pretty well. So we've got a guest coming in here in just a few minutes, actually, where we're going to do some segments together. So I'm very looking forward to bringing our guest in here. It's the first time where she has been around the nation. So should be really, really fun. Okay. So before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for being here. Please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helpful. It's very, very helpful. Like and share the stream. Also, I want to give a shout out here to OCN Tech for signing up to be a subscriber on Twitch. So that's super awesome. Thank you. All right. I want to get into a real quick story here before we bring on our guest. And I do want to talk about a little bit about the Lincoln Project. So progressives have been calling out the Lincoln Project after scores of Republicans decided to vote for Donald Trump in this election. So obviously we knew a lot of Republicans were going to vote for Donald Trump, but it appears that even more Republicans voted for Donald Trump than last time. In fact, according to exit polls, a greater percentage of self-identified Republicans voted this year, to elect Donald Trump than supported him in the presidential election 4 years ago. So we've got some numbers here. So last time, 90% of self-identified Republicans supported Donald Trump's election campaign. Now that number has gone up to 93%. 93. So actually, so despite the protestations and declarations of never Trump Republicans and constant headlines about, we're going to have these Donald Trump these never Trump Republicans, they're such a big force, they're going to really, really help with the turnout. they're going to help get Joe Biden elected. That's why we can't, of course, nominate somebody like Bernie Sanders, because we have never Trump Republicans that will not vote for somebody who's too far to the left. So we have to stay with somebody like Joe Biden. How did that turn out? Kind of poorly, actually. Super poorly. As I said before, 93%. He increased the share of Republicans. And not only that, but he also increased the share of votes. So now he's got even more votes than he did before. It's insane. It's utterly insane. It's crazy. So now, that said, Lincoln Project. How much money did they spend trying to court these never Trump Republicans? Well, they spent, according to the Center for Responsive Politics, the Lincoln Project raised more than $67 million in 2020 and spent over $59 million in federal elections this year. The same time period, Republican voters against Trump raised nearly $10 million and spent almost $7.5 million, with, as I said, no result at all. A comparison of exit polls from Tuesday night 4 years ago again shows that you had increased turnout of Republicans for Donald Trump. So what happened? Well, I can tell you what happened. Republicans love Donald Trump. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's look, Donald Trump has gotten Republicans their Supreme Court picks. They they cut taxes on the rich, which they of course falsely sell as something that's going to help them. And more importantly, they have been brutal to regular people. They've been brutal not only to regular people when it comes to healthcare, but they're also brutal to immigrants. It doesn't matter that they didn't actually build the wall. What matters is that they're brutal to immigrants. And so it's not a surprise that Republicans went Republican. And look, I know there's a lot of hay that was made about this, these anti-Trump, never Trump groups. What now? What now? Look, it turns out that you have a lot of progressives that were right, myself included, Anna Kasparian, David Sirota, Andrew Perez. A lot of us were right when we said this is nothing more than a grift. It's nothing more than a right-wing grift. And this time, instead of grifting their own, Republicans said, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's go and grift liberals. And that's exactly what happened. And they were 100% successful. They got tons and tons of money for literally no result. In fact, maybe the result that they were looking for is weakening the Democratic Party. I mean, especially as they try, as you have the left flank that is trying to get the Democratic Party to go progressive. I mean, as a result, you have not only Bernie Sanders repudiated and the Sanders wing, but you also have, weak Joe Biden, who was likely to become president. And then you also had a lot of losses. Mitch McConnell is still there. Lindsey Graham is still there. There's a runoff between Ossoff and Perdue. And so you have the Senate that's likely going back to the Republicans. And Democrats have lost seats in the House. Absolute disaster. Vitale added that the whole drift to the right strategy was a 100% failure. And that's because we know who Republicans are. Now, the Democrats, why do they continue to do this? It's the money, of course. Look, the Democrats should be embracing their own base. They should be embracing single-payer health care as the voters want, the public, even a public option to start out with. But we should definitely be going to Medicare for all. And then try to, Green New Deal. It's another good idea. But they're not going in that direction. Again, we see from Joe Biden, let's have some bipartisanship. Ridiculous. That's who, again, we know who Republicans are. Unfortunately, it's the Democrats who continue to not accept who the Republicans actually are and to futilely try to reach out to them over and over again just to get slapped in the face. You might start to think that maybe they're doing this on purpose because no one is that stupid. Really makes you think about who the Democrats actually want to be. All right. That said, I'm going to go. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring in our guest. And so stick with us for a few minutes while we get that set up. Stay right here, Round the Nation.
Could you just say the?
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here. So I have a special guest with me today on the show. We have host of the Habituation Room, Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca is not, the window is not up, but don't worry. We will get that working for your video, but I'm assuming everybody can hear you at least. So
Yeah, I hope so.
There is that.
I am just a flicker of light. I like the background. I am just that. I don't mean to be cocky, but like I am that shooting star. I am the glimmer in the eye of every child. I am the glisten on every diamond. Like that is. So I felt like that photo was still me. Anyway, how are you, Jeff? What's going on?
I'm doing
nothing.
I'm doing,
cool.
I'm doing. It's one of those days where you're between existential dread.
Me.
And you're freezing up, but a little bit. But there's some existential dread here, and there is, we're just waiting, impatience and existential dread.
There.
We're losing her. We're losing her already. We'll do it live. It's all right. Lost you there for a second.
Oh no! Am I
You're
back?
back though. You're back. We got you. We're doing it live, folks. Doing it live.
I thought Mercury was out of retrograde. Honestly, we're supposed to have election results and we're supposed to have clean internet. I'm so sorry about that. But I was just saying that it is a perfectly normal day and no one is anxious and nothing is wrong.
Everything is tremendous and fantastic. And
yes.
that word has now been ruined in perpetuity.
Yeah, never say it again, of course.
Never say it again. I'm going to have to find another. There's so many words that are ruined.
Tolerated. Yosemite's. Silent.
Oh my God, Waldorf with the switchboard, with the switchboard of Trumpisms. Man, that is.
I know.
Nobody else has that. I love that.
Well, I mean, I also have a couple of other ones,
I have not loved this conversation.
Actually, I have. I've loved this conversation already. But we are going to get into some news. But yes, we've got Rudy, and we've got more Trumpisms.
Burmisia. They say, pronounce it Burmisia. A real beautiful company.
I could sit here and play sound clips that I've put together.
Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me?
Some.
I would have been on your show way earlier if I had known that you had that lined up. This is the best.
It is. Thank you.
This is like shock jock. Shock jock in the Trump world is just Yosemite.
I work hard. I work hard to get everything done.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Jeff. I'm glad to get into this day. We need each other in this moment. I think everyone is freaking out and mad, especially progressives, and we have every right to be. So good to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you here as well. So speaking of freaking out, we've got Donald Trump. A little bit of a rage. So President Trump is having a bit of a rage-induced election meltdown. As mail-in ballots continue to prove to be mostly going towards Joe Biden, because of that whole thing where he said, let's not do mail-in voting. Let's all go to the polls. And they didn't. I mean, a lot of them did, way too many in my opinion, but not as many to counteract the mail-in ballots. So we've got Trump with some tweets here the other day. Says, how come every time they count mail-in ballot dumps, they're so devastating, their percentage and power of destruction? That doesn't even make sense. When you kind of read through that, what does it even mean?
The
Ballot
power
dumps?
of destruction. This is like the villain's last words. You know, the power of destruction is too great. Like, oh man,
He is a
you know,
cartoon
I
villain.
feel like he is. We're just the final tweets are just going to be like Lex Luthor in Superman 3 or whatever. You know, like I don't know, or just every villain's. It's just going to be the way that Melania stole, you know, Michelle's speech.
Everything.
And everything, and then ruin her garden. No, but yeah, look, guys, you go to Trump's Twitter feed, and it's all under like some of this content is actually not true and false.
That's the best.
You can't. He's got parental controls on his Twitter right now, but yes, this is the moment we're in of. Stop counting the ballots. JK, count the ballots. We'll count the ballots where it matters for me. Count the ballots where I can win. And it is a double-edged sword. He's between a rock and a hard place and all the other idioms I can't think of right now because he has to count the ballots if he wants any shot of getting to 270. This is Donald Trump. But he doesn't want to count the ballots because he knows he's losing. And to be fair to him, you know, a lot of those mail-in ballots, not the majority, but a lot of them were for Trump. You know, people voted early. He was doing actually free advertising for mail-in ballots. So honestly, if he's mad about the amount that people are mailing in their ballots, it's because he's been squawking about it for so long. People are like, oh, we can do that? Oh, cool. But
it's convenient.
It is convenient. And also some of those ballots went to him. They went to him. That's why he needs to count some of them. So really what they're saying is just count the votes for me because I'm president. Phooey. That's it.
Basically, 100%. Oh, now I'm falling into the John Idarola trap. Oh, no.
The 100% trap?
Yes, the 100% trap.
Oh, God, no. Stick with the 99%, Jeff. Just
99. I'm part of the 99. This is the 1%.
exactly.
Couple more tweets. You know, just the normal stuff as you said. Winning in Pennsylvania big. Not really. As the votes continue to get counted. PA Secretary of State just announced that there are millions of ballots left to be counted, and he says they're finding them. They're finding them all over the place. We're finding the ballots. We're finding them in the ballot room. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it's like me. I tweeted earlier. I don't know if you saw it, where I was like, I keep finding cat poop in the cat box. I don't know where it's coming from. Where's that coming from? Fraudulent poop. Fake
Absolutely. Poop. You know, if you keep digging, you keep finding them. Yeah, that's the problem with the ballots is when they keep counting them, they keep adding up. Just stop doing it. You know, I am surprised. I got to say, and look, it is still early in my book. I think my problem with this entire discussion about the election is that we all knew that this was going to take time. We all know that poll workers are overworked and underpaid. And yet the media and our demand for content basically is putting the squeeze on this whole process. And we're believing kind of the trap that we knew was going to be set up by Trump and by just the reality generally, which is more Republicans were going to vote day of. We can't necessarily know the outcome the night of the election. It is going to take days. It might even take weeks. And then we kind of all fell into this trap of like, I want it now. And it's just what more, how more American could we get? I want it now.
Right.
I deserve it. It's mine. I'm the best. But truth be told, we all really do need to relax. I mean, I know we're going to know the answers and the results pretty soon. But I do think, and I know we'll get into it, the more important thing is the answers and the things that we can already see, which is that even though it was an overwhelming turnout, even though Biden had, a record number of voters voting for him, Donald Trump did, in fact, increase the share of voters, or not the share of voters, but he increased the number of Americans who voted for him, right? More Americans voted for him this year than they did in 2016. Now, some of those people are voting for the first time. Some of those people liked what they saw in the first 4 years somehow and wanted to vote. So, I guess I'm just like, win or lose. I'm kind of in that moment. I hate when people say win or lose, and absolutely it matters who wins or loses, but win or lose, like, our country is, seriously screwed, and Trumpism is seriously not going anywhere. I was just going to say, I'm super surprised that one of his lackeys, or just a fawning fan, hasn't manufactured some, I found 500,000 ballots under my pigsty somehow, or whatever it is, or like in a ditch, you know what I mean? Like right under the pizza parlor, like under the, wherever Q hides the ballots, or wherever, people, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen that yet. And I know there still might be bad things on the horizon in terms of violence and Trump supporters going nuts. But the window for, look, I just found a bunch of ballots that were thrown out, throw the whole election out, that doesn't seem to be happening. And I'm just going to claim that as a small victory.
I'm starting to see Trump supporters talk about that, though. So it's not like they're not having that conversation. It's just whether or not that's going to filter up through the right-wing sphere, first from the blogs, first from the depths, the bowels of 4chan, trickling up. This is the only trickle up they believe in, because normally it's trickle down, but it's, go up through the Breitbarts and eventually end up in Fox News. And we'll see. I mean, already.
It's like laundering, right? It's like information laundering.
Yeah. And we, I think, as progressives, as lefties, we should have been prepared for this, because I had been saying on the show, watch out for the red mirage. Watch out. I didn't exactly use that terminology, but it's going to look like Donald Trump's going to win on election night, but we've got a ton of mail-in ballots. That's why I was, of course, saying we should go out and we should landslide. That did not happen. That was the nightmare scenario. Now, now we're doing the counts, and now everybody's got time to try to push back and to say, oh, those votes don't count. Then there's court challenges in Michigan. That's where I live. Court challenges in Wisconsin. Right. We'll see it in Nevada as well. Arizona. They're really pushing this. I am concerned. And I've been concerned for a while that they've been looking at trying to steal this election.
Sure. No, and they're going to try. There is the thing that is very, very telling is actually the way that Murdoch and Fox News has decided to not participate in the complete unreality that is Trump world by just straight up denying numbers. And it's a test. And I think, I'm never going to praise Fox News ever, 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 ever. But it is interesting that their calculation is we should probably keep our credit, whatever credit we have left as a media organization, and not announce that Arizona hasn't already gone to Biden, for example, right? And I think you will find that just like, in Texas, the Republican or very, very conservative justice that was appointed by George W. Bush, who threw out the Harris County lawsuit around drive-in voting, right, which would have invalidated over 100,000 votes. Like, conservatives have the press on them right now. Are they a total and complete loyalist, or do they want to do their jobs minimally honestly? And it's going to definitely come to some of these state legislatures and state Supreme Courts. And however the hell else, someone else knows better than I how all this might even funnel up to the courts. But I have some amount of faith. I really don't have faith in this current Supreme Court, but I have some amount of faith that maybe some of the lower courts would prevent it from even getting to that stage, because there's without the hanging Chad debacle, right? Without something where the electors are hinging so close, I hear you, Jeff, on being afraid that they're going to try and steal it. And I think he will claim victory.
He already has.
But I don't know if the mechanisms are there for him to be able to contest it legislatively or legally the way he wants to.
Well, let me just say this. Any situation where you find yourself kind of at the mercy of having Republicans, be in charge of something, doing the right thing, is not a situation that I want to find myself in. And yet, for somehow, we keep finding ourselves in it.
Yes. And in fact, the process of voting itself has been determined by a lot of Republican legislatures, i.e. making it much harder to vote and limiting polling stations, et cetera.
Exactly. We've got some fun videos to go to, by the way.
Love fun videos.
Trump supporters that are having a little bit of a freak out. So let's go to that here real quick. As the election counts continue, Trump supporters have decided to launch themselves into some pretty hilarious, contradictory chants like this.
Stop that count! 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 Stop that count!
So that happened in Michigan, which was called, of course, after Joe Biden received an influx of mail-in votes. Originally, Trump was leading on Election Day, but then those votes came in, and those were legal votes. They were getting counted, and so, they wanted to stop the vote. So now, this is the opposite of Arizona and some of the other places where Trump supporters have decided to say, we want you to count the votes. In fact, there was another video of putting those two states, Trump supporters in those two states, side by side, which is both hilarious and awesome and also super sad. Francesca, what do you think about that?
It's perfect. I mean, if there was, you couldn't more perfectly encapsulate Trumpism and the Trump cult than that. Whatever you want us to say, we're going to chant. We are at Simpsons mob level of reality here. Okay. Like I trust Springfield over Maricopa County and the people outside there. Like it is a cartoon. It straight up is a cartoon. And, again, with everything that Trump does, right? He's not just evil. He's not just a fascist. He doesn't just not believe in democracy, but he does it all poorly, right? He sticks Eric Trump and Rudy Giuliani on the case. And I feel like all the, even the, just the Lincoln Project Republicans, even Cheney is just looking at this like, well, if you want to steal an election, you just should have asked me, I could tell you. They know how to steal elections, but you got to be a little bit more furtive than that. You got to actually hide it a bit more. You can't just be like, don't count mail-in ballots. Because mail-in ballots are going to be a thing, and especially in a pandemic, they're going to be a thing. You got to find another way. Your brother has to be governor of a state. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Your balloting has to be confusing, or you got to bug one of your election machines and your election counting machines or your actual voting machines, which we honestly to this day we don't even know if those results are reliable or not. We need hand-marked ballots, and we don't have those. But so, I mean, it's that would be a more believable way, but this sort of participate in my unreality. No, this one. No, that one. Well, this reality here and that reality there. It just doesn't work.
I've said it. Cenk Uygur said it. We've all said it. It's the incompetence. He's a dumb person. Yeah. He's not a tremendously stable genius. No, he's the dumbest person, and he thinks that he's next level, when he's on the lowest level, childlike, baby, sad, dumb, and so all of his election strategies just end up being like
It's like a Sharknado, except with poop.
take it from old Benny there. He knows what's up. He knows what's up. And so
Oh God.
I mean, they're so dumb. I mean, how else can you really put it? He's dumb. He's so dumb. As far as the Trump supporters, it's the Kool-Aid. They drink the Kool-Aid. They're so desperate for a win. Not only the alleging massive voter fraud, but they're trying to stop the counts, as you saw, in some states, and then encourage the counts in other states, and then they get mad at news outlets that just report facts. For example, I've got another video of
They're
Fox
beloved.
News supporters that are mad. They're mad.
And they're actually chanting, Fox News sucks. Fox News sucks. The reason why they're chanting that is because Fox News called Arizona for Biden yesterday, and a lot of people are angry about that.
Fox News, well, you know what? That is the one time I will agree with the Trump supporter. Fox News does suck.
I never thought it would happen, but it's taken us this long to get here. Fox News absolutely sucks. Yes, they're right. They're right. I mean, but this is what's so interesting right now about, like, these protests are grabbing all the headlines, of course, but the real headline in my mind is how many millions of people still voted for Donald Trump. And I believe they're not the people who, God, I hope, would take the streets or be violent, or even go out and chant something like Fox News sucks. These people love Fox News. There are a lot of people who love Fox News, but they do believe in facts. They just really like Trump's racism and his bigot and his just sort of a strongman bigotry. And that's what they voted for. And they don't believe in wearing masks necessarily, or they believe maybe the COVID virus is being overblown. And that is the crust of Americans that I believe was dwindling in these 4 years. And they're still there. And that's actually what scares me. It is that silent majority type. And of course, Biden voters outvoted those voters. And we have to always remember that. But this was a lot of votes, 65 million votes or whatever. Not million. What's the vote count?
I think it's somewhere around 68 to 69 million so far versus Biden's 72 million. But I don't have an exact count.
Right. But that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That is a lot. And no, not all of them are outside of Maricopa County, election board screaming. But a lot of them just kind of agree with how in the world can you agree that this president is doing a good job? So, I mean, that to me is the headline, and that's kind of the illness that we've always needed to find an antidote for when it comes to Trumpism generally.
And I think, I feel like a lot of us, a lot of liberals, I should say, really underestimated that. And you can see that for this election. Again, we all forecasted, we all thought that, oh no, Trump's bad. Donald Trump's had 4 years to prove how disastrous he is. 235,000 people dead from coronavirus, an economic recession, constant news reports of how dumb he is, and how many people in his administration are straight up criminals and are in prison as a result.
Yes. Oh my God,
all of that stuff. And yet there were millions of people, tens of millions of people that were like, no, that's our dude. That's our guy.
Yep.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with, the antipathy towards Democrats, liberals, or just, they consume fake news like it's like Pop-Tarts or something or whatever. They just, you know what? It's also misogyny. Add in that. There's a big component of that. There's the racism. And I'm not saying every Trump supporter is racist, but you have to understand that for them, racism, misogyny, all that stuff, it's not a deal breaker. And that's a big problem too.
Yes. And I think that what Democrats need to fully understand, and I say Democrats, I really mean everyone who isn't a Trump voter needs to understand, is that there is an appeal that is deeply racist and deeply misogynist and also goes beyond that. And it is part of why people did also respond to a Bernie Sanders message. And that was someone who was willing to call BS on the entire system, someone who was willing to literally just say whatever came to them and say what they felt like was their truth, right? Now, Donald Trump's truth is a pack of lies, obviously. Right. But Bernie Sanders' truth, calling BS on a political establishment that he's seen from the inside for a really long time, saying we need to work together and have a real economic plan for justice for all Americans. Right. We need a New Deal. We need a Green New Deal. All the things that we love about him. That is also something that politicians are too afraid to utter. That is also something that corporate media, because they get money from so many fossil fuel companies and pharmaceutical companies, are too afraid to utter out loud. Saying you're going to take on the fossil fuel and the pharmaceutical industries. So you've got a classic right-wing versus left-wing populism. Right. And I do not think they're the same. I fervently believe they are not the same. And anyone who tries the lump, oh yeah, we both agree, BS, total BS. It is, but there is an economic message and there is our institutions have failed us message that might have overlap.
Yeah. Again, I've said before, right-wing populism isn't necessarily populism. It's basically trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator by having some agreements. There are some right-wingers that legitimately don't like war. But then you look at somebody like Tucker Carlson, he doesn't like war because he thinks Iraqis are subhuman monkeys. And so it's
exactly. Perfect example.
You're so close, but then so far. Ooh,
yeah.
No.
It's like libertarians who are like, oh, yeah, I think a woman has a right to choose and do whatever she wants with her body, but corporations should absolutely run everything. Why not? Banks are a small business. The one thing I would agree with them on is that they don't believe in subsidies, which hell, let's do away with subsidies. Sure. But yeah, it is hard to argue, and anyone in the media, I'm glad you mentioned that about populism, because it's like, can you even call a voter who is voting for someone who is deeply anti-democratic, who is corrupt to the core, who doesn't believe in counting all ballots in an election? Can you call that person a populist? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? True. Isn't a populist supposed to be someone who actually cares about the common people, everyday concerns, the will of the people? Yeah. Trump doesn't care about the will of the people at all.
No, you're supposed to actually represent people as a populist. Donald Trump doesn't represent anyone but himself and his own, corporate business interests. And that's essentially what it is. The only thing that he really got done during his entire administration, other than rolling back a bunch of stuff that Obama did because he hates Obama, was tax cuts for the rich. Right. Tax cuts for the rich and deregulation, very little of which benefited the common working person. And I'm sorry, I have a background in manufacturing, okay? I used to work in manufacturing. That ain't coming back. Not on the scale that it used to be. It's not coming back, and it's probably... at the end of the day, it's probably a good thing that it's not coming back. I like the fact that we are streamlining. The great future, not to go off on too big of a tangent here.
Go off on a manufacturing tangent. That's fine. It's your show.
Thank you. No, the big thing that I actually want to see in the future is people having to work less. I would love to have a 2 or 3, 4 day work week. Oh,
God, yeah. And a 4-hour work day. Let's be real. Nobody is productive for 8 hours a day. You're lying if you say you are. Yeah. We all know you're not.
The amount of fuck off time I have in my, day is just amazing. No.
The amount of, we call it tubing time, Jeff.
I'm not calling it tubing time. That's for sure. There's no tubing going on here. Okay. Gross.
Gross. Gross. Hashtag gross.
We'll strike that from the record. But no, manufacturing, machines are supposed to make our life easier. Automation is supposed to make our lives easier. But as long as we have the system that we have, the structure that we have, the corporate structure, it's just we're just going to end up getting displaced, and people are going to be poor. Again, that's the tangent I could expand on much further, but
No, but it's an interesting. You're not saying something that most people aren't saying. Like it is a reason why Andrew Yang and UBI are enticing to people, right? Yeah. Because we do understand that more than immigration, which is always a red herring, it's automation that is displacing work and jobs, and that beyond the fact that universal health care, a guaranteed roof over your head, and all of the other things that progressives believe in, the right to an education, beyond the fact that those are just staples of any like progressive Western democracy, that values human rights, there are also things that we're going to need to prevent many and millions of us from being homeless and put out onto the streets, because our jobs are being automated away. And a UBI factors into that. So I really hated his framing, and I think that Yang was kind of a grifter. But look, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were on board with UBI. Mm-hmm. It's just that you need a UBI with justice. You can't, and that's the other thing is, like, I as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for UBI if I still live in a state where Disneyland doesn't pay their property taxes. Okay, this was a ballot measure that just got voted down in California, where I am, where you've got giant corporations not paying property taxes, y'all.
It's
insane. So let's talk about corporate loopholes first, then we'll get on to the UBI stuff and everything else. But anyway, we are on a tangent, Jeff.
Yeah, but it really kind of goes back to populism, because that's a more popular idea. Donald Trump, not in favor of that. We got a $1,200 check, and that was it.
Right.
Not very.
He hasn't brought jobs back. He hasn't brought manufacturing jobs back. You don't. And this is the thing with the trickle down ideology. Ooh.
No, you're still here.
Okay, good. But yes, this is the thing with the trickle down job creator ideology that we all know is bogus. And this is the same thing. Remember when Bernie Sanders got hammered because in the first days of the Trump administration, or when he was elected, Sanders said something like, look, I will work with Donald Trump if he's serious about helping working Americans.
Right.
And just in the same way that he's so stupid about being just the most minimal competent politician, most minimal competent leader, he didn't work with Bernie Sanders on bringing jobs back. He didn't do every time there was the turn was obvious, the path was obvious. It's like Donald Trump's presidency is like the worst choose your own adventure.
Yes.
It's like it's a choose your own adventure book in which you die by page 5.
From coronavirus, likely.
From a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the same people that, by the way, got on Bernie Sanders for saying that he would work with Donald Trump are the same people that support the politicians that, for example, work with Donald Trump on increasing the military budget to $700 and something odd billion. And so I don't really think they have a lot of room to talk.
But this message, the message of we spend too much money on wars, the political system doesn't represent working class people, jobs have left, and neoliberal consensus and has ruined my community and my family, those are all real. And it's not just the white working class. In fact, of course, we all know that people of color and immigrants are the ones who get hurt and hit the most. And women, so it's like, all those things stand, and Democrats still don't have an answer. They still aren't able to openly name that was a problem. Right. The same way that Biden says the crime bill was a mistake, I want to hear him say NAFTA was a mistake. I want to hear him say that, that sort of allowing our communities, basically austerity was a mistake. Austerity is a mistake. Divesting from communities is a mistake. And Democrats have participated in that mistake. But they don't say that. And they won't say that. So it's our job to make them say that.
Mm-hmm. And of course, speaking of Democratic failures, why don't we get to that?
Yes. Oh, love it.
Yeah. So switching gears away from election stuff. Well, kind of. All right. Despite possibly eking out a win for Joe Biden, Democrats did not have a good night on Tuesday night. A lot of key races ended up going to Republicans. For example, Mitch McConnell destroyed Amy McGrath in Kentucky, but it's Kentucky, you might say. Well, I mean, yes and no, but also there's millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on that race. You had Tommy Tuberville, which sounds like a cartoon character from like Thomas and Friends, beating Doug Jones in Alabama. Suzanne Collins survived in Maine. Lindsey Graham beat Jamie Harrison. Basically, what it looks like is that the Democrats are not going to win the Senate. And you also have Democrats losing in the House. And that's despite very, very lofty projections from a lot of Democratic leaders. And so they are not happy about this. As Politico notes, the blame game is starting to begin. In fact, according to this article, they said the unreliable polls, the GOP's law and order message amid a summer of unrest, the hidden Trump voters, the impeachment hangover, the lack of a coronavirus stimulus deal, all targets of speculation as to what went wrong on Tuesday. Now, before I get into more detail, Francesca, I'm just going to ask you, do they not get it?
You know, I think just from you reading that and just from that setup, I think they don't know necessarily what the remedy is, but they do know there's a problem. I was watching MSNBC yesterday and Brian Williams is like, I mean, does Nancy Pelosi even get to lead in this House? You know, does Chuck Schumer still retain minority leader? Like, and of course, Lawrence O'Donnell immediately was like, well, I don't think it's that serious. And so they put the lid on. But we're talking about mainstream media figures that are already asking these questions, the questions we've been asking for a long time now. But absolutely, when you solicit and pour in, what is it, $88 million? I don't know it's like some insane amount of money that went to Amy McGrath's campaign against Mitch McConnell. Oh. Of all the seats, like right now, you've got Reverend Warnock going to go to a runoff, right, with Kelly Loeffler, however you say her name, in January. But if he had the money that McGrath had, maybe he would have won outright because that was more winnable. They love McConnell. They love McConnell and Graham. If you don't know how much voters, I'm assuming white voters and Republican voters love McConnell and Graham, then, you know, it's like, yes, they disgust us, but like they're the only ones keeping the Republican Party afloat right now, simply by believing in it and simply by being so evil that they're famous, you know, like, so it's anyway. But so I do think that the Democrats are starting to ask questions. I just wonder what kinds of conclusions they're going to come to. And we have ours, of course.
We'll get to that conclusion. In fact, there are some people talking about a leadership change. Interesting. So now, according to the same article, some corners of the party were beginning to question the message and tactics at the top, with several Democrats predicting and some demanding a significant overhaul within the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, including possibly even ousting Chairwoman Sherry Bustos, whose Illinois race is yet to be called. And another idea is to replace Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. But if you're wondering, of course, whether or not this will lead to them listening to progressives, the answer, of course, is sadly, hell no. Two unnamed Democrats told The Hill on Wednesday that they were reaching out to their colleagues about backing one of Pelosi's top lieutenants, House Democratic Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries, for Speaker in the next Congress. And so there's that.
Look, I mean, the reality is, and this is the sad reality, is as much as we love AOC and the squad and Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar and, you know, Rashida Tlaib and now Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones, as much as we love them and Pramila Jayapal, that love isn't enough to grow their clout and grow their strength in Congress, you know. Every year, the Congressional Progressive Caucus puts out a budget. They say what they think America's priorities should be with all of its money. Well, do we read that budget? No, I don't really. I mean, I've seen it a couple times.
I love that budget.
oh my God, it's a brilliant budget. It's brilliant. It is the stuff that we should be focused on. But we have power, but we got to use it, right? It's not enough for us to just love someone so hard. We have to be like, we have to grow their numbers in Congress. And the only silver lining, I know someone in the comments is saying Dems lost the House. Exactly. And the only silver lining is actually now there are fewer centrist Dems, and there are more progressive Dems. And that means that their power grows a little bit.
Right.
Look, I don't like Hakeem Jeffries, but I think he's better than Pelosi.
I will differ with that just a little bit. I think he's just more of a younger face and the same kind of leadership style. I mean, that's
Maybe.
my guess. He's not in leadership. I don't know. But here's another quote from one of the Democrats. This time this is from The Hill. They said on, replacing Pelosi and what they should do, quote, "It's time for Democrats to elevate a new generation of leadership in both the House and the Senate," one of the Democrats told The Hill. Now, look, if we're going with that, then absolutely, I would agree with that. Yes, we need new leadership. We need better leadership. But here's where they get you with the but. Americans are clearly afraid of socialism, want safe streets and neighborhoods, and to vote for people they believe will help put more money in their pockets. While Democratic policies can adequately address those issues, our messaging mechanism clearly cannot. Those are right-wing talking points. Those are Republican talking points. If it didn't say random Democratic staffer or whatever congressperson, I would think that it's a Republican.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't get it. They don't get it at all. I feel like all they want to do is swap out one corporate Democrat with a younger corporate Democrat, and that's all they want. They're ignoring the AOCs. They're ignoring the Jamal Bowmans. They're ignoring Cori Bush, which, by the way, you know who did awesome on election night? DSA-backed candidates.
Yes.
I think it was like 26 out of 30, 27 out of 30 won their races. And so you are right. They're getting rid of the corporate Democrats. They're getting culled, beaten by Republicans, which is, again, unfortunate because they're getting replaced by Republicans. But maybe it opens up a spot for progressives to run. The problem is with that, it's such a long strategy to try to replace these. And not only you have to bring up these candidates, you have to make sure that they follow things set forward by groups like Justice Democrats, for example, is doing great work. These candidates have to not take corporate money. They have to be honest. They have to be people that, will actually represent their community. And then they have to get funded. They have to get national news attention, which corporate media does not give them. They're not interested in giving them any sort of media attention.
I mean,
so many.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. I think whereas a year ago, 2 years ago, Pelosi was like the green dream or whatever, she knows what the Green New Deal is now. She knew it then, but now she can't even pretend like she doesn't know what it is. And Sunrise Movement and Justice Democrats, who I think the Justice Dems were called nerds who had no power. Yeah. Well, Ed Markey found out what happens when you get Sunrise and Justice Dems on your side, right? They pull for you. Cori Bush finds out. Mondaire Jones finds out, right? Elliot Engel found out when he lost to Jamal Bowman in his district, right? 33-year incumbent. These people effed around and found out. And the fact that Markey could say, I'm going to embrace climate change, a climate change platform and the Green New Deal, and then Sunrise turned out for him, it's like, that is a lesson. And I of course, there's going to be a lot of, anonymous hot takes of random staffers. I don't know who those people are. I don't think they know what they're talking about. I think that the proof is in the pudding. The proof is moderate Dems lost. They banked on some sort of blue wave. Well, guess what? A lot of the blue wave was because of the squad and because of progressive upstarts. So, and then they saw, they see Ed Markey getting all this support. And that's the thing. You can pour millions of dollars into Amy McGrath's campaign, right? And she will still lose. But what you need is the AOC energy, the door knocking till your shoes are tattered. And yes, there was a safe way to do that, right?
There was.
We found out in June, there was a safe way to do that, right? After BLM protesters showed us that when you're outside and you're masked, hey, you're not really spreading the virus. Now, all that said is that Democrats try and get rid of a grassroots campaign. They try to pretend, they try to act like they've got it under control, that they don't need to knock doors, that they don't need to build communities and relationships because they just get the money from out of state or whatever. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Yes.
We will always have grassroots energy over Republicans. Republicans have the money. Republicans always have the steady voters. It's Democrats. Our secret weapon is mobilization, is grassroots, is community building.
It's us. It's us.
It's us.
people.
Absolutely. It's the reason Bernie Sanders, they had to jump every moderate Dem and combine them into one
Voltron
candidate
type
that
of
still
thing.
wasn't good enough. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. This is why I support groups like Justice Democrats. This is why I support groups like Brand New Congress, bringing that progressive energy into the Democratic Party in order to take it over. That is what I've been advocating for quite some time. And it's what we need to do because that's what wins elections. And so, yes, there are these hot takes. It does show, that there is, I mean, it's like they're half self-aware. They're like, ooh, we've got a problem. But then it's like, the problem is something else. And the solution is something else. Or I should say the problem is this, the solution is something else. We'll go in the wrong direction. And it's like, no, we're here. Progressives are here. Reach out to us. We'll get your back if you get ours. But that money is just so addictive.
But and that's exactly right. I mean, and this is the thing with, the false narrative around lefties. And if you have a false narrative around a lefty, just get offline. Just stop. The internet is honestly not real life. Twitter is not real life.
It's not?
But what? But
news to me.
It's so funny because the whole narrative that like lefties and progressives, they're so mean and they're so cliquish and they won't work for you and they're just, they're nasty, they're this and that. Look at Sunrise. Look at Justice Dems. Look at these young people knocking doors, calling people. Look at Seed the Vote. Look at Movement Voter Project. Look at all of this work. That work wasn't done off a grant from, some big foundation. Like, no, that work was done from people who've been in the struggle for a long time, but who still know that electoral politics are important. And you're exactly right when you said, we will have your back if you have ours. Yeah, man. If you believe in Medicare for all and working towards that, we will come out for you. DSA proved that. If you want to make a just city in Los Angeles, we'll come out for you, Nithya Raman. And they came out for Nithya Raman like crazy, DSA did over here in LA, I'm saying. So that is false also. The toxicity of the left, it's like, I'm so done with it. Yes, it can be toxic, but like, that's not the main thing. That's not the problem.
And I think there's just a lot of people that are super frustrated and understand like it's a long game. Politics is a long game. I mean, Mitch McConnell's got it. He understands. He's playing the long game all the time. I remember doing an article for Wolfpack way back in 2012, talking about how Citizens United, Mitch McConnell, literally sitting outside of the courthouse waiting for that to happen after, basically being an architect of it or being part of that. And so Mitch McConnell understands the long game. We as progressives, we need to do so too. We need to understand that these things do take time, but to continue to fight and to push and to bring that energy when we need it.
Yes, they don't
Elections.
even have – I'm so sorry, you're getting me riled up. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, you're exactly right with Citizens United. The same thing with the Supreme Court. Like, Democrats don't even understand their rival. They don't even understand their opponent, right? They are consistently called the opposition party, and they're like, no, we love working together with all of your extremist right-wing appointments to the justice, like to the Supreme Court, right? Like, oh, no, we want to work together as you allow corporations to be people and allow endless amounts of dark money to funnel into our political system tight. Like, know who we're dealing with. These people have no morals. They are plutocrats and they relish in it. They relish in evil. You have tears, you're being deported, you're being harassed, you're being assaulted. They relish in it. They have a plan. So what is our plan? Like, what is our plan? What is our vision? What are we fighting for?
Exactly.
Who are we putting onto the Supreme Court? You know, like, so we don't even know. We don't even know.
Let me buttress your point here with some video of Don Jr. talking about why we should reelect his dad.
So we need you to get out and bring your friends to vote tomorrow. And when we do, we can not only keep making America great again, but we can make liberals cry again.
That is their entire platform, make liberals cry. That is the conservative movement, and you're absolutely right in saying we shouldn't be happy working with that. That is not a viable political party. It is a reactionary movement that is fascist at its core, and really the only thing that they do is their purpose is to funnel money to the rich.
Right. And I will say that's exactly right. And I will say the allure of that sentence, like, make them cry. We all know that they really mean make them bleed and kill them and run them over with cars and aggress upon them. But the sentiment, hats off to this idea of like going on the offense, making liberals cry. I want to make conservatives cry.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I do want a Planned Parenthood on every corner, next to the taco truck, next to the walk-in clinic, next to the tuition-free college, right? Like, that's what I want. That is my world. I want to make you cry, and guess what? Maybe it'll work out.
So I want to make you cry and then give you fucking health care.
Exactly. Go cry to a therapist who is funded by help, whose services are help funded by the government, because you've got mental health care. Like, this is the thing that I think Democrats don't want to do. They don't want to scare the right because they're so worried of playing into an already bad faith discussion, an already bad faith talking point, that they're like, oh no, we're not socialists, I swear. I pissed on Castro's grave more than you did. Like, what are we talking about here?
Do you remember?
Why are we trying to play this game?
Do you remember during the primary where we were told by so many of the pundits, we can't nominate Bernie Sanders, he's too far left. They're going to call him a socialist. They're going to call him a communist. What happened during this entire election? Joe Biden's a socialist. Joe Biden's a communist. Bernie Sanders is running running the Democratic Party. He's the puppeteer, which, by the way, has anti-Semitic connotations to it. I'm just saying. And so that's another thing the right loves to do. And so it's one of those things where it's like, why don't we just go actually be left? All right, you're afraid of socialists? I'm a socialist then. Let's get it. Let's do it. I'm gonna socialism your ass so hard that you're gonna get health care and love it.
Yes. You can afford to stay in your home because we'll have rent control.
Yeah, so cry and suck on that.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I think a discussion going forward for progressives, because let's be real, the left wing of the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and progressives also have soul searching to do. We need to not be naive. We need to not be arrogant and say that just because we're farther left, we have all the answers. No, I think we messed up too. Sure. And I think the Sanders campaign did make mistakes. We can talk about those later.
Of course.
I also am not ready to say that Bernie would have won. Where I think, here's the thing. I don't know if Bernie would have won, but I'll tell you, the places that we're now waiting on bated breath to find out whether they went for Biden, Arizona, Nevada, the Midwest.
Latino
Bernie
voters?
took those. Bernie took a lot of those states in 2016 and in 2020, right? Not as well in the Midwest in 2020, but these are voters who were Bernie voters.
Yep.
So I'm not saying he would have won, but look at these states and look at where they stand and look at how they respond to things like an economic agenda for justice. And I will just say, and this is a whole other thing. Imagine if Biden loses. Imagine if Trump won. Like, obviously awful. But if Bernie lost, if we were at this moment and Bernie lost, I would rather lose to Trump with this giant movement of momentum, of conviction, of real platform and policies, of real camaraderie and hope for a united or true united country than Joe Biden. Of course, I'd rather lose to Trump with Bernie. No question, any day. So now, of course, you get hammered by the moderates who probably wouldn't have even supported your campaign in the first place. But, there's a lot of woulda, shoulda, coulda. And I'm not ready to say one way or another, but I do know that losing to Trump with an upswell of the kinds of agenda that Bernie was putting forward would have felt a lot better than losing to him with Biden. Right. I think I just restated what I said, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. And let me just put it out there that I think Bernie would have won. Fair enough.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you should put it out there. I think it is a little bit of a futile exercise, but
maybe, but
we should keep. Yeah, for sure. Oh my God. When I was on the streets protesting Trump's election in 2016, I'm in the streets of Oakland, and my friend and I hadn't seen each other in a while. And she was just like, oh my God, we could have been celebrating Bernie Sanders as our first president, or as president right now, instead of protesting Donald Trump. And those words have not left me, that I could have been taking the streets out of elation and not taking the streets out of a defeat of just a terrible candidate.
Yeah, and we might still be able. I would say we're still probably going to take the streets, but this time, I'm hoping our target is Biden, because as I keep saying on this show plenty of times, once Biden gets elected, that's not the end. No, our fight begins. The fight begins because now we've got someone. It's much easier, and this was really my argument for Biden. It's easier to try to push for progressive policies when you're not facing fascist crackdowns.
Absolutely.
And so now we can go back to fighting back in 2015. We hit the reset button. We're back to 2015 now, and now our goal is to push the party left. Or if it doesn't go left, replace them.
Yeah. And I do think that progressive policies are anti-fascist policies. I do think that ultimately the cure for fascism is going to be the kinds of bold progressive agendas and the economic agendas and the racial justice agendas that we know we need. It's going to be a new deal, right? It's going to be a job guarantee, like job guarantees. And this is the thing. It's like our government has been so obliterated by the right wing and allowed to be obliterated by Democrats that, of course, no one has faith in the government anymore. Mm-hmm. But so you got to get, but now, and I know we hate Obamacare, of course. My premiums are going up next year. I'm like, what? How?
I don't even have health insurance, so.
God, Jeff, it's terrible. And yet, 60% or something, 50 or 56, almost 60% of Americans believe we should keep the ACA. 40% of Americans believe we should expand on the ACA. People believe that it's good. Fox News was showing these stats the other night. So it's like, once you prove that a social program, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that those actually save lives, you can't put that cat back in the bag. You got it. You have to expand it. Anyway.
Generally, cats don't do well when they're put in bags, but
they hate bags. Oh my God.
Mine loves to lay on bags though. So especially the plastic.
Actually, that's true. Some of them do like bag. They don't like to be not against their will.
Yeah, exactly. But great points all around. Do you got time for one more? One more story?
Yeah, a little bit longer. Yeah, let's go for a little longer.
All right. So this is going to be an infuriating story. So I expect the fire and fury. So we have a new update in the investigation of an ICE facility where women were mutilated with unnecessary surgeries. And I say mutilated because it's exactly what happened. It appears that witnesses in this case are being deported before they can testify. So Vice News caught up with one key witness, Anna Kajagal Adan. I probably butchered her name. I apologize for that. But while the country was fixated on this election, she says that ICE notified her that she would be immediately deported to Mexico. Adan, 25, is one of the 5 women who tell Vice News that they were treated by Dr. Mahendra Amin, who is also known as the uterus collector. They say ICE either deported or attempted to deport these women before they were able to testify or fully testify. And so before I get into any more details, Francesca, I want your input. Take it away.
I mean, this is what's at stake, right? This is why, as much as we hate Democrats, we know that there is actually a huge difference between human rights and how people are treated on the border under a Democratic president and under a Republican one. And yes, I know that Obama was the deporter in chief. Immigration organizations know that he was the deporter in chief, and they fought against him then, and they fought against Trump's policies now. But also, Dreamers won under Obama, right? We're talking 500,000 Americans who've been in this country since they were under the age of 3, who are now allowed, who had a pathway to citizenship, gone under Donald Trump, right? So, there is life and death, even though I know for so many of us it feels like it's the same, 2 sides of the same corrupt coin. But yeah, these are people who wouldn't have had been like test subjects and lab rats.
Yep.
And I mean, this is Nazi shit, guys. Nazi
Definitely.
Shit. It's Nazi shit. And so, of course, they're trying to cover their tracks, right?
Yep.
You got Chad Wolf as head of the DHS. Of course, they're covering their tracks and trying to deport anyone as soon as they can. They deported the young woman who was impregnated when she was assaulted at a detention facility, I think, in El Paso. Same thing.
No, you're absolutely right. I was just going to say, too, on the Obama thing, yes, deporter in chief, 100%. But at this point, maybe you would think that some of them might be actually doing better, than they would under Donald Trump, being locked in cages, separated from their families, and subject to horrific experiments. Yeah, it's not great. Is it marginally better? One could make an argument. And that's not, and this is coming from somebody who does not defend or like that policy whatsoever. I think it's horrible to, deport that many people. But then you look at what Donald Trump's been doing, what he's been given license to do.
Yes.
I mean, that's
and it was all an apparatus built. I mean, look, it was. Obama was president. There is no excuse. He could have shut down that apparatus. But This was an apparatus built after 9/11, built in the wake of the war on terror, built as part of, talk about slick fascists, George W. Bush and the entire administration. And I meant to say this earlier. Remember, these are the guys who coined, this is Donald Rumsfeld saying the evidence of absence is not absence, or no, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's literally what Trump is trying to say right now with these votes, right? The fact that there is no evidence of fraud doesn't mean there isn't fraud, right? It's ridiculous. And so, but these guys were the smart ones when it came to developing a fascist military police state. And they did it very well under the guise of the war on terror. And we are still in need of dismantling that apparatus. ICE should absolutely be abolished.
Yes.
Department of Homeland Security, abolish that shit. Gone, completely gone, right? And if only because they've abused their power and they've lost the ability to actually police anything, right? So anyway, yeah, it's a horrifying story, but yeah, it's the whataboutism when it comes to immigrant lives and saying but Obama.
Yeah.
I think we have to remember that doesn't actually help us, right?
Right.
Like, what does that mean for where we want to go?
Right. And I think of any of the issues that you could push Joe Biden on, it would be immigration. Because that is something that universally doesn't affect the donors. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the moneyed interests, and you could say, hey, look, you could reverse a lot of the Trump policies, which is probably already going to do, and then work on that pathway to citizenship. And I think that is probably one of the things you can push Biden on, and we should try to get him to do that because, I mean, these stories are horrifying. Again, this person, it's called the uterus collector. I mean, how much more details can you get into that? I mean,
like
he's
even
going and stealing people's uteruses.
The creepiest, again, most
disgusting.
diabolic villain shit.
Total villain shit. In fact, this is not something that is historically unprecedented by either. By the way, according to historical data, 32 states in this country in the 20th century maintained federally funded eugenics boards tasked with ordering sterilizations of women and men that are deemed undesirables. What do you think this administration does? You said it earlier. Nazi shit. It's exactly what it is. California had asexualization acts, which led to 20,000 men and women losing reproductive capacity, and it was a direct inspiration to the Nazis. They looked at America and they said, ooh, we like that. We're going to take that. Yoink. Disgusting.
Yep.
Horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, and of course against the Native American population in this country, African American population in this country, the Tuskegee experiments. Like, yes, black and brown bodies in this country have been utilized for disgusting medical experiments, and absolutely there have been plans of sterilization. And I just... it's gross. Like, if it's not just cruel, but there's something so gross about, there was before this, right? Like, I think in 2017, there were reports that women who had been raped and then were impregnated, who were crossing the border into the United States, that their periods and their pregnancies were being tracked and they were prevented from accessing a safe abortion. They were being tracked by, I forgot the guy, but it was either the former Department of Homeland Security head or anyway, the point is like this obsession with the reproductive freedom and the uteruses of mostly women of color and like the other, it's so gross. It is, eugenics have been disproven, but for some reason, i.e. racism, like we in this country still have people who are like that. And they want to do that to all women, not just women who cross the border. I mean, if Amy Coney Barrett had her way, she'd be personally tracking all of our cycles. And that'd be scary. It
is really scary how much Republicans love this stuff. They're not outraged about this. When this report came out, they weren't angry. They're like, yeah, that's fine. We're pro-life, but only when it comes to white babies, by the way. Yeah. As far as, other people's babies, no. Look, Steve King, you remember Steve King. He basically said what a lot of them think out loud. We can't rebuild our civilization with somebody else's babies. I mean, it's disgusting. It's who they are. And by the way, as far as reproductive rights, I mean, it doesn't affect wealthy women. If you have a ban on Roe v. Wade, they can still get abortions. It's poor women of color primarily, but also poor white women. But they're okay with that too, because guess what? Those people grow up disadvantaged, and maybe they're easier to prod into voting Republican. So it's a win overall.
We have so much healing to do in this country, and especially with reproductive rights. It's one of those issues that is, we misname it as being only a women's issue. It's not. It's a justice issue. It's an economic issue, like you're saying. And I think liberal feminists, to be honest with you, have done a lot of that damage. There's some amazing radical left feminists and organizations that do really, really dope work. But I think it's been also so non-profitized. And I hope with the just cold glass of water thrown on our faces that Amy Coney Barrett was, or more just like a kick in the crotch to every woman in this country. I think the feminist movement is waking up to the fact that our struggle is actually really radical and is actually very much interconnected with other struggles. And that Republicans will sell out women's bodies anytime, any day, any place.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to actually save Roe v. Wade, we have to link that with a whole lot of other anti-fascist civil rights, things like justice for Black lives, like reining in the police, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a scary, every time we're faced with something awful, it is an opportunity to see the problem in a new light, which is what we hope moderate Democrats are doing right now.
Absolutely.
As we await the results.
Oh, those results. Pins and needles. Pins and needles. Before we go, I want to read a couple of donos, and then I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. I mean, they
Sounds
know
good.
you more than they know me, but nonetheless, plug your stuff, which is always awesome. I always love to see you on TYT. I have to check out the Bitchuation Room.
Do it.
Like Sunday nights, I usually end up streaming and then or like playing video games with my friends because I'm a big gamer nerd. So you can say it, nerd. But
no, it's fine. I don't have hand-eye or coordination, so I can't play.
Oh, that's a bummer. Paul Franklin says, Francesca, they're really happy to see you. Kathy Harvey says,
how many exclamation marks? Cool. That's enough.
Oh yeah. Hello, Jeff and Francesca. I like that from Adrian Bennyfield. Recount the cat poop. It's a mega plot. I love that. Somebody wants to hear the Alex Jones, so.
I will eat your ass.
We're okay with that. We're progressives here. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's consensual.
Yeah, no, we're not kink shaming.
No kink shaming here. No, we don't do
that.
But
that's
here.
when you eat a lot of dirty ass, you definitely turn into Alex Jones. He's been eating the wrong assholes. Sorry.
Oh, that's so good.
Just bad diet.
Terrible.
Anyway.
Tremendously bad. Bad diet. Let's see. These. Okay, I can't read that. I don't know what you mean by that. Rogue Jedi attended a DSA demonstration yesterday in the historic Riverside Courthouse. That's awesome. And Tiffany Starr. So Tiffany, it's fine. You don't have to pay a drunk tax. She was on my show on election night, and she got a little tipsy. It's all right. It's all right. It was a fun show, though, by the way.
I imagine it was a very Real Housewives type of show. Real Housewives of election night, just no, you're the centrist. That kind of thing.
Oh, thank you, Francesca, by the way. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, find me on my YouTube page. Franny Fio is where you can find that. And it's the Bitchuation Room podcast. We go live every Sunday, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can listen as a podcast and also watch News Broke on AJ+. I did a great live yesterday on AJ Plus's YouTube page with Jamal Bowman. He actually said Bernie would have won. So definitely check out that because it was a really good interview.
Yes, I love watching you on Newsbrook, by the way. Those are such good segments. Like the one on socialism, I love it.
Yes, I am carrying the socialism torch whenever it comes to debunking myths or talking about it. I've done that for way too many years, and I will continue to do it. I pour my heart and soul into those pieces, so glad you watch.
Well, I appreciate what you do, and my audience does as well. Our collective audiences. So again, thank you so much for being here. If you can stay for a minute after I end the live stream, maybe we'll talk about getting you on the show again or doing some more collab stuff if you're interested.
Yeah, I can't say no because everyone's watching. That'd be weird.
It would be like one of those rejected on air disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's how you get people to come back. You you guilt them into coming back.
That's true. Yeah, if you can't deny me now. I see you, Jeff. I see how you roll. Well, thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for hanging. This has been great.
Yes. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. We got clips, of course, of this excellent episode coming out later. Which should be a lot of fun to watch if you missed parts of the show. Again, Francesca Fiorentini. Yes, I said it right. And by the way, fun fact, I got her on the show by promising to say her name correctly. So...
Yes, you did.
Twitter.
Once again, dude, this is just like the 70 chess of Jeff Waldorf.
I got tremendous brain. Great.
I've got a very good brain. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Thank you so much.
This is one of those Michigan goodbyes. If you're not familiar,
It is.
It just takes forever.
No, bye.
All right. Love
No,
you
you
guys.
hang up. You hang
and
up.
Remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all later.